In this exercise, we will work 2.7a. 2.7a says, based on the information provided in 2.6a, prepare a statement of owner's equity that has a net loss. So everything is the same as 2.6a. So everything's the same up here, except that instead of a net income of $10,000, we have a net loss of $3,000. So using that information, we're going to prepare the statement of owner's equity. So if you remember on this statement of owner's equity, we first must complete the heading. So this was the name of the business is always on the first line, Betsy Ray's Accounting Service for this problem. The second line is always the name of the financial statement. So this is the statement of owner's equity. And then the third line is the date line. And if you remember, for the statement of owner's equity, it is always for the period of time covered. And if we look back, it is for the month of June. So we will have 4 month ended June 30th, 2020. Once you have your heading for your financial statement, for the statement of owner's equity, the first line of the statement of owner's equity is always the beginning capital for the beginning of the period. So the capital for the beginning of this period, the beginning of the month of June, is going to be June 1st. So Betsy Ray capital June 1st, 2020. Now what was it? Let's look back at the problem. If you remember, this is a new business. Betsy started the accounting service by investing $20,000. Your beginning capital balance is always what you ended the previous month with. So this business was not in existence in the previous month during May. So our beginning balance is 0. And we'll indicate that by the small ruling. The second line of your statement of owner's equity is going to be any investments by the owner. So we're going to add investments during the month of June, during the period that we're looking at. And so, like we said, she invested the $20,000. So investments during June for this business were $20,000. So once you have your beginning capital and you've added the line for the investments, then the following line is total investments, and you will add those two amounts together. So simply for this one, it's just going to be 0 plus 20,000. So our total investments are 20,000. Once you've established that capital, then what you look for is either the net income or the net loss. So in this problem, it tells us that Ray had a net loss of $3,000. So when we worked the previous one, there was an income. This has a net loss. Net loss, what impact does a net loss have on the capital balance? It causes a decrease. So a decrease to the capital is what the net loss will cause. And if you also remember, withdrawals cause a decrease. So our two items here are going to cause decreases to the capital balance. So change it back to this. So we're going to say less our net loss for June. Which was, what did we say, 3,000? And we would put a $sign because that's the first number in that column. And it's also going to be less our withdrawals for June. And when we look back at our information, it said that the withdrawals were $8,000. So since the loss causes a decrease and the withdrawals cause a decrease, then we're going to add those two amounts together to get the total decrease. Now that is different than how we handle it if it's a net income. If it's a net income, then it's an increase and the withdrawals are a decrease, so we subtract it to get the difference. But when they're both causing a decrease, then we're going to add them together to get the total decrease in capital. So our total decrease in capital is going to be $11,000 that we're going to subtract. And so when our last line, what that subtracting that $11,000 is going to give us is Betsy, Ray, capital, June 30th. So 20,000 minus 11,000 is going to give us the ending capital balance of 9,000. So again, a couple of notes to review. We have a $sign beside the first number in each column, a $sign beside the total of the financial statement. We have single rulings anywhere that we are adding or subtracting the numbers above. And then we have the double ruling beneath the total of the financial statement. So for the statement of owner's equity, you always begin, the first line is always the capital balance for the beginning of the period. So this is the month of June. What if it said for the year ended December 31st? Then the beginning of that period would be January 1st. So that's what would go here, would be January 1st. It's always the beginning of whatever period you look at, and the last line is always the last date of the period that you are working with. Okay, so that is exercise 2.7a.